In this video for section 3.1, we're going to do an application problem for finding the minimum and maximum value of a quadratic function. And the textbook example problems are all problems that involve physics. You'll see a problem about throwing a football and a problem about an arrow. And those are fine examples, but I want to do a business application for you guys instead. So this is one of the exercises from the textbook. It's exercise number 73. And you're going to see a similar problem on your homework assignment. So we have a local sandwich store, Hunky Beef. They have fixed weekly costs of $525 and variable costs for making their sandwiches are 55 cents per sandwich. And part A says to let X represent the number of sandwiches made and sold each week. Write the weekly cost function C for the Hunky Beef store. And the cost function is the sum of fixed and variable costs. That's a hint. And we did this before. When you're writing the cost function, it's going to be two parts that are added together. We have the fixed cost of $525. And that's just $525 a week. Doesn't matter how many sandwiches we make or sell, those are fixed costs. And we also have the variable costs of 55 cents per sandwich. Now this is 55 cents for each sandwich, and X is the number of sandwiches. So I'm going to multiply 55 cents times the number of sandwiches. So plus 0.55 times X. And this is my cost function. So part B. This is something new. The function r of x equals negative 0.001 x squared plus 3x describes the money in dollars that Hunky Beef takes in each week from the sale of X roast beef sandwiches. Use this revenue function and the cost function from part A to write the store's weekly profit function P. Hint, the profit function is the difference between the revenue and cost functions. So this is one of the most important ideas from this class, and this is something that you definitely need to take away if you don't take away anything else. Profit is equal to revenue minus costs. Revenue is the money that a business takes in. Costs are your costs for doing your business, making your product. The leftover is the profit. So profit equals revenue minus costs. So when we are going to calculate the profit function from the revenue and cost functions, we're going to substitute for r of x, our revenue function up here. So this is negative 0.001 x squared plus 3x. And then we're subtracting the cost. And so I'm going to substitute c of x with the cost function that I found in part A, 525 plus 0.55x. Now notice I'm putting this in parentheses when I'm plugging it in. This is very important because both of these pieces of the cost function are subtracted from the revenue. So I'm subtracting the $525 from my revenue, and I'm subtracting 55 cents per sandwich from my revenue to get my profit. So now I'm going to distribute that minus sign and simplify. So we have this negative 0.001x squared. We're just going to leave that. Plus 3x minus 525 minus 0.55x. And lastly, I'm going to combine these like terms. We have plus 3x minus 0.55x. So I can combine those together. Don't have anything to combine with the x squared, and I don't have anything to combine with the constant 525, so I'm just going to leave those. So negative 0.001x squared, 3x minus 0.55x is going to be 245x, and minus 525. So this is my profit function. This tells me how much profit I will make for a given number of sandwiches. The other thing that you always want to remember when you're working with these functions is that X is the number of products. In this case, my business is roast beef sandwiches, so number of sandwiches. but X is always the number of products that you're making and selling. And not to get too much into the economics here, but there is an underlying assumption that you're selling everything you make. So, part C says to use the store's profit function to determine the number of roast beef sandwiches it should make and sell each week to maximize profit. What is the maximum weekly profit? So, what we're going to do here is basically use what we just learned in this section. We're going to identify our A, B, and C, and we're going to find the vertex. My A here is negative, which tells me that the profit function is a parabola that opens downward. And remember, X is number of products. So what that means is that if I make a few sandwiches, I'm going to have kind of a low profit. If I increase my number of sandwiches that I make, then that's good, but I'll eventually reach a point where I'm making the maximum amount of profit. The profit doesn't continue infinitely, because eventually if I make too many sandwiches, what's going to happen? Well, I'm just going to have sandwiches that are sitting there because there's not enough demand to meet the number of sandwiches that I made. So if I'm making extra sandwiches that are just sitting there and going bad, then that's a waste of money. So there's a maximum number of sandwiches that I will need to make in order to meet the demand for sandwiches but not exceed the demand for sandwiches. So with that, we're going to use negative b over 2a to find the x coordinate, just like we've been doing. So the numbers here are a little bit different, but they're just decimals. Nothing wrong with that. So negative b is negative 2.45 over 2 times negative a, which is 0.001. And since this is a number of sandwiches, I would expect that my answer should be a positive number. It wouldn't make sense that I need to make a negative number of sandwiches. And if I divide negative 2.5 by 0.001, then I get the number of sandwiches, which is 1,225. And then I want to find the maximum weekly profit, and I do that by plugging into my profit function. So there's my profit function up above. I'm going to plug in 1,225 for x. So I'm going to have negative 0.001 times 1,225 squared plus 2.45 times 1,225 minus 525. Now this is one of those situations where it's a little bit helpful if you have a calculator that you can just type this in all at once. If you look in the solutions file for the notes, I do show kind of how to go step by step. First you need to square the 1,225 and then multiply that by negative 0.001. These two need to be multiplied and then you can add everything together. I'm going to skip that for right here and just go straight to the answer of $975.62.5. So the way that you're going to see this in the homework is they're going to have a sentence for you to fill in about the maximum profit. So the maximum weekly profit for this business is $975. We're going to round that up to the nearest cent. So $975.63 when we make and sell 1,225 sandwiches. So that's my answer. So next you should be able to do the homework problems for this section.